Have you ever wanted to guest on a podcast like this one that you're listening to right now? Well, you can. You can definitely do this by visiting a website called Podmatch, where you can sign up and be available for all different types of podcasts that you can guest on. Or you can even search for a podcast and say, I want to guest on your podcast. I think we'd be a good match. So if you want to do this, you can go to our unique link, which is joinpodmatch.com/reality, and you can sign up and do exactly that. And you can find us and you can guest on our podcast. So again, that unique link is www.joinpodmatch.com. That's joinpodmatch.com/reality, REALITEA, and you can be a guest on our podcast. Welcome to Reality Tea Times 2, the podcast where we discuss all the trash reality TV we love to hate. I'm Tanika, and you know what I realized? The Golden Bachelor is not trash TV. This is wholesome. This is beautiful. I love this show so much. But we are going to be doing, I think, this might get edited out actually, but I'm going to be doing both episode 5 and 6 in this episode. So let's get into it. We have nothing really to discuss on the top of the episode. So let's jump into the reason we're here. The Golden Bachelor season 1, episode 5. So in walks Jesse, and he tells us that although there are 6 women and we think there's only going to be 4 going to hometowns, he says, no. It's actually only 3. 3 women are going to be going to hometowns. Yikes. So the one-on-one date, it goes to Faith. So on the card, it says, you make my heart soar. Not SORE, like soar like an airplane. So this is a once in a lifetime kind of date, is what Jesse told him. And then here's Gerry, and he does think that the connection with Faith is kind of a little bit of a question mark. So he needs to explore that and see where that's going to go. So the first thing that they are going to be doing is going into a helicopter. And the helicopter goes over the house, and we just hear Susan go, helicopter. This made me laugh, and I'm going to say why, because this was maybe an unusual thing. Maybe people are like, why is that funny? It's funny for me because all I can think of for maybe people who have watched Madagascar, probably one of my favorite movies, and I was too old, but my brother's younger, so we'd watch it all the time. And watching Madagascar, and there's a scene in Madagascar when they're like, because Marty wants to go to Africa or whatever it is. He wants to go to the wilderness, and Alex is like, why do you need to do that? Just look up and look at the stars. And Marty's like, helicopter. And then you just see the helicopter start going by. It just made me laugh. That's kind of how she said it, and it was perfect. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's funny. And that's why it was funny. Anyway, moving on. So Leslie is a little bit jealous about this date. She doesn't want to get her heartbroken again, she says. Then we see a yacht. We're back with Gerry and Faith, and we see this yacht. And Faith is like, we're not landing on that boat, are we? And he says, well, I'm not. But yes, the question is yes. Or the answer is yes. They are going to be landing this boat landing on this boat. So the helicopter makes its landing with such ease, and now they're on this yacht. So back with Leslie for a hot second. Leslie is having a really hard time, and she's just really, like, she just starts crying about, you know, having this kind of, these memories of people not wanting her, maybe wanting other people. We kind of do get a little bit more information at the time of her hometown a little bit. So yeah. Anyway, back to the date. She says, I had a hard childhood. She was alone. She says she didn't have a mother or a father. So she kind of felt like something wasn't whole, even though like she built her life kind of on her own. She still felt like something was kind of missing. And she says, I still have these traumas that extend to my love life. Not making the best decisions on the men that she would pick. And he just wants to be with someone who has his back and he have theirs. And just wants a genuine relationship. She just worries that it's not real. The feelings that she's having, I guess, are maybe not real. And that it's will not be, and then it won't be like thrown in her face kind of thing. I get, or the feelings that she's having. And he says, you just got to lean in. And apparently this is something that he said to her on the helicopter. You just gotta lean in. That's all you can do. Because she was freaking out about the helicopter, guys. Like, freaking out. She didn't like it. I don't know if I would like it, really. I don't have a heights issue, but I don't know about the helicopter. Anyway, it's all I gotta do, he says. And then he gives Faith the rose, which means she will be bringing him home to meet her family. Then they go into the hot tub, and he feels that she could be the one for him. So we'll see. Now Faith is back at the house from her date, and they ask how it went. She's like, I don't know if you guys really want to know. She's like, of course we want to know. Tell us. Faith tells them what happened, and Ellen is now feeling the jealousy because she's like, she's on cloud nine. I don't want to hear how you're on cloud nine. Like, this is my guy. So now we're at the group date, and we are at the Santa Monica Pier. They are going to just have fun. They're going to play games, and they go on the tilty boat ride, when it goes like, whoop, whoop, like the boat ride, which I've only ever been on once and I hated it. So they do that, and they go on like bumper cars and roller coasters. Like, they're just having fun. Then Teresa talks to Gerry, and she said that she's been on many dates, and none have clicked. Sorry. The way that it has clicked with him. She doesn't want him out of her life, she says. And she tells him that she is falling in love with him. So here we go. Then they go on the Ferris wheel. Fun. Then he talks to Sandra, and we find out that she has been single for 29 years. And I just wrote Susan is amazing because he talks to Susan as well. Then Leslie and him talk, and he tells her, I have a few bruises from our date, some in odd places. And she says, well, you told me to squeeze, so I squeezed. So he tells her that I wake up at night and I think of you. And she says, that's really great to hear because it's been hard because, seeing you on other dates, and she does name drop Faith. It says that it's been a struggle. And she starts crying and she says, her feelings for him are very foreign for her because she hasn't really been in this kind of relationship. I'm assuming just based on what she says here and what she says later on. And she tells him that I am crazy about you. And she says, just looking back and checking on me on the date, I tell the other women that, and I've never had anyone do that for me before. And then she tells him that I am falling in love with you. And he tells her, you are my girl. Now, I want to point this out because I don't believe he said that to anyone else when they said this to him. You are my girl. That is real telling. So Susan says, everyone feels they will get the rose, but someone's gonna cry. I love you, Susan. I'm gonna miss her. Spoiler alert. Come on. Do we really think? Anyways, move on. Then Gerry and Ellen go on a roller coaster, and Ellen's in her element, she says. And then they kind of, after the roller coaster ride, kind of just sit there and they talk. And she tells him that she has never met someone where their lives are so parallel. And it's true, they are fairly parallel for the most part. They both like pickleball. But they do seem fairly parallel in their lives to some extent. And she can't wait to be a teammate with him. And then she tells him that she is falling head over heels with him. And she can't wait for her family and Roberta to meet him. And she says it's hard to be this vulnerable after all of this time of being single. Well, she's been single for some time, so, she says it's difficult. Then the group date rose is out on the open there. And Gerry ends up deciding that he cannot make this decision right now. And he is deciding that he's going to give out the remaining 2 roses at the rose ceremony. Most of them seem to be okay with the idea of this, but not everybody, I don't think. But now we're at the rose ceremony. And we're just going to cut to the chase. Leslie and Teresa are the ones who get the roses. So which means that the ones who are leaving is Susan, Sandra, and Ellen. Ellen says that she feels she is going to faint, kind of just standing there, waiting to say the goodbyes. Susan, like I said, she's the best. She's amazing. I absolutely love her. And she tells him that he is the best. And I said, you are the best. He walks Ellen out, though. And he does ask her for a minute and to talk, and she says, okay. And he tells her, to stay positive, trying to build her up because he just knocked her all the way down. So he's trying to build her up. And he says, I hope that you do stay positive. And she says, okay, I gotta go. And she felt that this was a shock to her. She thought that he was the one. But this was still one of the best experiences that she had. She said that he is special and he deserves to be happy, I guess, even if that's not with her. And I guess we don't get to read Roberta, and we never will. So that's the end of episode 5. So we're going to take a break here, and when we come back, we will jump into episode 6. Do you want to spice up your love life? Well, you can make that happen by going to Love Shop, where you can get sorts of different things, whether it's for both you and your partner or just for yourself. For solo play, you can get things, all types of vibrators, maybe more kinky type toys, or you can just buy what every person may need, like lingerie or protection, or even just something to make it a little more fun, like games or novelty things. You can do all of this by going to Love Shop, and you can use our unique coupon code REALITYT2 to get 10% on anything your hearts desire. So that's loveshop.ca, loveshop.ca, and use our unique coupon code REALITY2. That's REALITEA and the number 2. Okay, so episode 6, hometowns. So this episode is going to be a little longer, obviously. So first, we're in Shrewsbury, New Jersey with Teresa. So we see them sitting and they talk, and he talks about the first date that they had and how, when he was driving through the depths of hell to get to this place because there was no headlights on the car, that just her hand on his shoulder, was really solidifying in the relationship. So she tells him that she has not introduced a man to her family before. But now let's head to her family. And we are going to be meeting her daughter, Jen, her husband, Teresa's sisters, Mary and Charlotte, and her grandsons. So she tells them about, her first day there and how she came in her quote unquote birthday suit. And he kind of was like, what was I supposed to do? I feel like the chivalrous thing, would have been out kind of the window. What do you do? So, Jen, we find out, is the one that kind of encouraged her mom to go on the show. So Teresa first talks with her sisters, and they say he's very wholesome. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Her sisters say they can tell how much she loves him. And Teresa says, I'm 70 years old, competing with 60-year-olds. Oh my God. You don't even think about that, but it's true. I guess, even if you're in your 30s, because that's something we do. When you're older and you're in your 30s and you're competing with 20-year-olds, you're just there's no competition here. I'm not going to win because I'm older. It's the same thing applies here when you're 70 and you're talking about sex, even though you're kind of all in the same age group. But so are 30s and 20s and 30s. We're all kind of in the same age group. So it was really eye-opening to kind of hear her say that. But anyway. So, her sisters tell her, don't worry about the ages. It is what it is. So Gerry talks to her grandsons. They're absolutely adorable. And they feel good about him, they say. They say that she comes over a lot to their home because she's lonely. So now, if she's with you and you guys get married, she won't be lonely anymore. I thought that was so sweet. And they tell him that when she does her selfies, that she does the duck lips. So then we kind of see all her grandsons and then Gerry pretending to do duck lip selfies. It was adorable. So then Gerry talks to her daughter, Jen, and she asks him, what do you like about her? And he says how she looks at me. So I'm just going to say the running theme with all of the hometowns is how she looks at me. That's kind of what he says to everybody. So she, she says, like, she leans in and, when she's listening to me um, and then her daughter says, like, what about the fact, um, that, you know, both of you, like, after this is done, everyone has their lives established. Everyone has their families. This is very different than someone who's younger. And also just kind of set in your own ways. Like, how do you navigate that? And it's funny because we haven't actually heard any conversation about this from anybody. And I think that, if anything, this is when it's more important to have those conversations, because how do you navigate this? I don't know. But he says, I guess that's something we'll just have to figure out. I feel like you guys should figure that out soon, honestly, because I feel like they're gonna definitely have a harder time figuring that out. Um, so then she asks whether or not he is falling in love with Teresa. Now, I'm going to point this out and I'm going to highlight this because one of these dates, hometown dates, is not like the others. And that is going to be pointed out at the end. So, he says that, it's hard because he doesn't even really know what falling in love again should feel like. He hasn't fallen or even told someone that he's falling in love with them since 1968. My mom wasn't even born yet. My dad wasn't even born yet. It's a long time ago. So yeah, like, God, my grandparents were only married for 5 years. I'm just putting that in perspective. Like, when you put it like that, it's like, Jesus, my grandparents have been married now for 60 years, and this is, whoa. But yeah, it's a long time. So it's like, you know, he's like, I don't even know what that feels like now. Like, is the feeling that I'm feeling, is that me falling in love? Like, or I don't know. And you could kind of tell that her daughter wasn't quite satisfied with that answer. But what do you do? Right? Um, so then Gerry talks to her sisters and they tell him that we can see it for you guys and see that he's very genuine, and that they tell him also that you're her guy. And he gets very emotional at this, kind of hearing this from her sisters. It's kind of a big deal for him, I think. And then Teresa talks to her daughter and she tells Jen that she is falling in love with him. And then Jen says, way to go on the first guy you bring home. He's great, isn't he? Um, so her grandsons say, we think you should be our new papa. This is what they say to him in front of everybody. And that kind of made me realize that maybe only one of these grandkids actually met their grandfather. Because definitely the youngest one has not. Because he's been gone now for 9 years, and that's so sad. I could, I'm just thinking, like, from my perspective, not gonna get emotional, but from my perspective, I'm just like, I can't imagine not having known my grandfathers and coming from a place where my grandpa has passed away. One of my grandpas have passed away, um, and has been gone now for almost 4 years, like about 3.5 years now. So it's, I can't imagine that. So I feel so like they're happy kids. They don't know any different. But um, still, I can't imagine that, just from my perspective. And yeah, I'm like, wow, she's like, whew. And then say, like, new papa. So clearly, like, he's very much a part, and that's how it should be. That never ends. He's very much a part of the family, even though he's not physically here here in this world. So it's, you know, anyway, Um, that caught me a little bit. Now they're going to be getting ready to leave, and we now are at Seaside Heights, guys, for my Jersey Shore fans. As soon as you saw that, you're like, oh, where are you at exactly in Seaside Heights? Because Seaside Heights just expands, or at least, yeah, like it just expands. Like, they could be anywhere. But I'm like, where are you at? But we're in Seaside Heights. Um, and then Teresa tells him that she is in love with him. She's no longer just falling in love. She is in love with him. And he says that makes him feel so special. But that is all he says. And then he does say, though, in the moment, now he doesn't say this to her, but in the moment, he does say he is falling in love with her. But he just doesn't tell her this. I found that very interesting. So again, remember, guys, I said one of these hometown dates is not like the others. But let's move on to the next date. Now we are in Benton City, Washington, and we're with Faith. And she says it's real rural here. She says sometimes you might ride your horse to the grocery store. It's fine. Then we meet her horse, Liberty, and she says that she adopted her as a baby. I love horses. I know some people are afraid of horses because they're majestic animals and they can literally throw you off their back. I've gone horseback riding before. It was an amazing experience and I would love to do it again. I love horses. I love them so much. Okay. So I love the name Liberty. Okay. Moving on. So then they both go horseback riding. And she does say to him that she was worried on whether or not he could handle the lifestyle that she lives. And he says he's fine with it. And she does admit, though, because he does kind of say, like, it's just about so much like how we spend time together, when we spend time together, where we spend time together. It's about that. And she does say to him, I have to be honest, that me being close to my sons is important to me. I want to be able to be close by so that they need, then, if they need me, I'm here. Now, I wonder now if she said sons or children because she has a daughter. Is this her daughter? Not good. Oh. But anyway, she does say she wants to be close to her kids. So that's important to her. And she also does say, and I want to say this, like, maybe some people might be like, who cares? But I'm going to say this. She says, my horse is buried here. So this is how much I love horses. And I don't know if anyone knows of the show, because I think it is done in Canada. And it is, for me anyways, on a Canadian network, but it is on Netflix as well. There is a show called Heartland, and they are books. I read these books as a kid, and then Heartland came out, and I watched Heartland. Love it. And you kind of learn by watching the show, like, how important your horse is to you. It's gut-wrenching when they pass, especially because they live long lives, and like they could live 20 plus years easily. So her saying, like, my horse is buried here, you don't want to be too far away from your horse, right? And also that she also has Liberty, so this is very important to her, that she probably stays home, which is just like, okay, so then how do we navigate this? Because here's my thing, guys. It's very hard for me. Usually I'm able to say who I think like the top 4 is. We're past that now. I can't do this for the show because I love everybody so much that I can't say who I want to get the guy at the end. I don't know. I can tell you, though, that I don't want it to be Teresa. I can tell you that. There's something about Teresa that it rubs me the wrong way. I think just with everything that happened between her and Kathy, it really rubbed me the wrong way. So it's really difficult for me to kind of be like, oh yeah, no, Otherwise I don't care, but I really like Faith after this hometown date. So it was really hard for me to be like, who am I think is gonna, win at the end of this? But I am concerned of how they would navigate life together. So that makes me very concerned of with his work. Is he gonna pick her? I don't know. Um, so now we are meeting her family. I didn't catch everybody's names, but I'm gonna try to do my best here. So we're meeting her friend Joan, her sister Beth, her sons Nick and miss out that name, her daughter, and then her grandsons. So they talk about the first night that she got there with the motorcycle and the hair flips and all that. And so Beth and Faith talk, and Beth says that it's very different with Gerry for Faith. She says you normally have a wall up and you don't, and she's very emotional. Beth is, my goodness. And she says that Faith says that she would leave with him in a heartbeat. And then Gerry talks to her sons, and they ask, "Are you in love with her?" And he says, "Yeah, I think I am." Okay, like I said, guys, remember, one date is not like the others. We're already seeing a difference. Let's continue. And then Gerry talks with Beth, and he tells her that Faith brings peace to him. And Beth says, I want you to take seriously that she is trusting you with her heart. She doesn't normally do this. So take that into account, that she says to him. Then we see him playing football with her grandsons, and they ask, are you going to marry her? Their grandsons ask him. And he says, I might. Do you want to be my best man? Then he says his goodbyes, and Beth is not pleased. She's like, what? Why? Oh, you gotta go to another hometown. And Joan's like, I think you should have canceled that. That's the only thing we heard from Joan. And he does say, though, to Beth, can you take care of her for me? Oh. Then they, both Faith and Gerry, whisper to each other that they love each other. Oh. Break my heart. Oh. Again, like I said, one of these dates is not like the other. And so far, there's some differences. Let's continue, because now we're heading to Minneapolis, Minnesota with Leslie, where Prince was. Okay. Anyway, we can't talk about Prince though, because she did fuck him. So let's continue. So she tells him about her brother and how special he is to her. His name is Stuart, by the way. And she tells Gerry the story of when she was 16, her father dropped her off at school, and he never came back. So, trigger warning for suicide. If you want to bypass this, I will put a timestamp here, so you can bypass. This is so sad. She doesn't actually say it, but it's implied. So anyway, so she says that he never came back, and her brother came to pick her up, and she says, what are you doing here? Dad's is picking me up. And he says, no, he's not. And he says, I'm your dad now. And she tells us that when he took her to school, he went home, and she says her words are, well, he passed away. And I think we can all tell here that it's he committed suicide. So geez, she's like, it's really hard to lose your dad at 16. I can imagine that she has lived longer without her father than she did with him, and that's so sad. But whew, I'm not gonna cry. I'm getting emotional, guys. But yeah, it that's what happened. Trigger warning is done now. Um, but yeah, her brother really stepped in to fill that fatherly role for her. So now she says that they are at a place called Brick and Mortar. How original. And he is going to be meeting her sons Zach and Eli, her daughter Chloe, her brother Stuart, and her grandkids. And she says, of course, the other women bother her because they ask, like, she's like, of course that they bother. It's me, you know me. And she sits and talks to her daughter, and she says, she is struggling with feeling enough for him because of the fact that there is other women here. And she tells her daughter that she is falling in love with him and that she did tell him that she is falling in love with him. Then we see Gerry sitting and talking to her grandkids. They're cute. And they think he will fit right in with the family. And then her sons talk to her, and they think that he could be the one. And then Gerry and Stuart talk, and Stuart thinks it's weird that, he's dating his sister, but yet he is also dating two other women. And he says, believe it or not, it's weird for me too. And he says, Stuart says that he's very protective of her and he doesn't want her to get hurt because she's been hurt a lot. And Stuart says that he is so out of the of a boat of what her typical type is and what she would normally go for. But he does say it's a good thing. Of course it is. He's an amazing guy. And he says, if they decide they want to get married, he would have his blessing to do so. So then they leave and they go downstairs, and there's Leslie and Gerry, obviously. And Leslie tells Gerry that she is not falling in love, but she is in love with him. So then he tells Leslie that, a wise man once told me to not walk past an opportunity to tell someone you love them. And Leslie, I love you. So like I said, one of these dates is not like the other, and that is Teresa's date is not like the others. He's literally telling these women that he loves them. And I think that's such a serious thing. But he's telling them that he loves them. And Teresa, he never tells her that he loves her. And not to mention, he only says in the moment that he's falling in love, not in love with her. Teresa's going home, y'all. But let's continue. So, we're back in LA and we're back at the mansion, and it is rose ceremony time. He does give his first rose to Leslie, but then you can see that he's not doing okay. He's not doing well. He is not well. And he does pick up the rose, but then he puts it back down, and we can see he's crying, and he kind of is motioning to give me a minute. He can't even say the words. And he walks out and he goes outside and he says, I think I'm going to throw up. He's cussing. We don't hear Gerry cussing, but he's cussing. And he comes back inside and he's bending over. He's like, I'm going to be sick. More cussing. And guess what, guys? That's it. That's all, folks. We don't know who he's picking until Thursday. Now, I'm with you guys and I have to wait to find out. I'm recording on a Sunday. I'm not happy. I'm not happy that I have to wait. But I have to wait. But, yeah. This is where we're at. So for next week, we see him telling Jesse that he does know what he wants to do. He just doesn't want to do it. So clearly he knows what he's about to do. And that is why he is reacting the way he's reacting. I am going to put it out here because, again, he's given the rose to Leslie already, so she's good. And again, we see that he has said, I am in love with you, too. Verbally has said those words to Faith. And he hasn't said a fucking single thing to Teresa. So I think, for me, he's picking Faith and he's sending Teresa home. We will see. And then we also will have the women tell all as well. So I'm curious to know how long the episode's going to go for. I'm not sure, but I guess we will find out when we find out. But that's it for the Golden Bachelor for this week. I'm hoping that you guys will have something for Bachelor in Paradise. I am working my way back now and getting those episodes done. I'm still in the process of watching the episodes. So you should have that soon. You should have F-Boy Island soon as well. And we also want to work towards getting the episodes done for Selling Sunset. That has come out now officially as I'm recording this. And I do want to get those to you quickly, only because we are getting a reunion for this season on the 15th. So I'm going to try my best to get you all of the episodes before that time. You might get one or two on the 15th. We'll see. But I'm going to try to get those to you as quickly as possible before the reunion. So we'll see. It'll be similar to what we did last time. We're going to bunch them all together as much as we can. And you'll get those soon. You probably will get a couple full episodes of ours a week getting up to that point. So we'll see. But that is it for the Golden Bachelor. So if you like what you heard, please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. And you can rate a review on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And I have a new thing that I want to start trying, and that is that every 4 or 5-star review that we get, I'll read it on the podcast. So if you want to hear your review on the podcast, please rate and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you're able to rate and review. And if you want to connect with us, you can do so by going to Reality Tea Times 2 on Facebook, Reality Tea Times 2 podcast on Instagram, or Threads, Reality Tea Times 2 pod on Twitter. You can also find us on Reddit at Reality Tea Times 2 pod. And you can also email us at realityteatimes2@hotmail.com. And don't forget, you can find us on YouTube at Reality Tea Times 2. You can also subscribe, like, comment on there as well. We greatly appreciate that. And don't forget that I do have another podcast with my friend Mikkel called Next Take Podcast, where we talk about all kinds of different things. We currently have, this number can definitely change, but we currently have about 8 episodes. Roughly, we've talked about all kinds of different things. We have a lot of fun over there. So please go take a listen to us over at Next Take Podcast, which you can find us on YouTube at Next Take Podcast. You can also find us on our website, solo.to/Next Take Podcast. And don't forget, we have a website, and that is at solo.to/Reality Tea Times 2. And we also have a Discord, and I believe that's Reality Tea Times 2 as well. So you can find us there. But that's basically it. That's all the stuff. Of course, everything here
that I've just listed will be in our show notes. All discount codes, special links to everything that we put in our ads are also in our show notes. And yeah, that's basically it, guys. Thanks so much. Bye.
Have you ever thought of starting your very own podcast? Doing the research, I found something that would have made editing easy and seamless and makes the podcasting experience just that much easier. And I am talking about Ludo. This is a podcast software that I use for our editing of our episodes. It is amazing. It is easy. You're also able to get help from doing chats and getting the information that maybe you just need a little more help with. They also have access to different articles that can also help you that have been just godsends for me. Also with Ludo, you can create clips, you can do your ads, that's like this very one I'm doing right now, and you can create your trailer very seamlessly just by the clicks of buttons. You can also use Ludo to publish your episodes just straight from the software. It's so easy. I highly recommend it. You can get access to Ludo by using our unique link, which you can find on our show notes, just down there at the bottom at the show notes. And you can get access to an easy software